The big story this morning, all schools and colleges in Delhi and nearby cities are to stay closed until further notice. That direction, one of several, comes as the National Capital Region battles a toxic smog that has blanketed it since Diwali. Educational institutions are likely to return to online classes as were held during the COVID lockdown. A 9-page order issued by the Air Pollution Panel, the CAQM, has asked NCR state governments, that's Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan and UP, to allow 50% of staff to work from home until the 21st of November. Private firms are also being encouraged to follow this model. Now, the panel also says demolition projects across Delhi and NCR have to be stopped until the 21st of November. Exceptions have been made for railway services, metro operations, airports and bus terminals and defence-related projects. The order calls for heavy penalty on persons and organizations who are responsible for stacking construction materials or waste on roads. Several thermal power plants have also been shut down and trucks will not be able to enter the national capital. Meher joining us with the latest on that big story. Meher, this notification came in quite late last night. Have schools and colleges been able to implement this straight away?
So, Ankita, yes, there were some major changes discussed in this order. No trucks will be allowed in Delhi for the until the 21st of November, and all thermal plants will not be allowed to function. Out of 11, only 5 will function. So this may actually impact our air quality significantly, but of course this was very late. The changes will take some time to actually be implemented. It came at around 12 or 1 a.m. last night, and of course this will have some implications, but it's important to remember that these changes are not new. Similar changes have been implemented for many years now, but only too late and with not enough impact.
Meher, thanks for joining us with those latest details. This, as Delhi's neighbouring Punjab is now seeing farm fires at a record high in the last 5 years. Farmers are telling NDTV they have no choice but to burn the paddy residue. Year after year, why has there been no solution to this recurring problem? Mohammad Ghazali finds out.
There have been more stubble burning incidents in Punjab than in the last 5 years, according to an estimate by a NASA scientist. On the ground, a marginal farmer, Gurmail Singh in Moga district, is one of them and explains why there are more fires.
ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਪਰਾਲੀ ਤੇ ਆਉਂ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਿੱਕੇ ਜ਼ਿਮੀਂਦਾਰ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਜ਼ਮੀਨ ਪਰਾਲੀ 2 ਏਕੜ ਆ ਪਰਾਲੀ ਜਲਣਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਜਬੂਰੀ ਆ ਕੋਈ ਸ਼ੌਂਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਦਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਡੀਜ਼ਲ ਦਾ ਖਰਚਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਪੂਰਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਹਜੇ ਕੰਮ ਨਿਕਲਦਾ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਰਾਲੀ ਬਾਲਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਜਬੂਰ ਆ
1 एकड़ जमीन को चावल काटना होता है, की कटाई होती है, तो 1 एकड़ में ट्रैक्टर का कितना तेल लगता है?
20 लीटर तेल लगता।
और अगर इसी 1 एकड़ में पराली साफ करना हो ट्रैक्टर या मशीन लगा के तो कितना तेल लगता है?
20 लीटर फिर लगेगा, 40 होगा।
The main reason remains the hurry to clear the stubble for the sowing of the next crop. But higher costs of diesel and the fertilizer shortage in some parts means it's become harder to pay the 5,000 rupees or so that Gurmail Singh would need for the machines. That's a lot from his expected earning of about 62,000. So, burning is economical. Another farmer, Harvinder Singh, explains why the government subsidized machines are not enough.
ਹੁਣ ਉਹ ਹਫਤਾ ਜੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਹਫਤਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੰਘ ਜੂਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਾਹਣ ਫੇਰ ਸੁੱਕ ਜੂ ਉਸ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਆਸ਼ਾ ਟਰੈਕਟਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹ ਖਿੱਚ ਲੂਗਾ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਖਿੱਚ ਲੂਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਿੱਚ ਸਕਦਾ
Both the centre and the state say that the number of machines has increased this year, and at a time when the politicians in power, regardless of party, should have devised a bipartisan solution, they are blaming each other.
देखिए, जब दिल्ली में इलेक्शन थी तो इन्होंने ये कहना शुरू किया था कि ये पोल्यूशन जो है, और उन्होंने बड़ा मुद्दा भी बनाया था उस समय इलेक्शन में, मुझे याद है, कोई भी ऐसा पोल्यूशन पंजाब में दिखाई नहीं दे रहा।
Across Punjab, the farmers have just one response. It is our compulsion. That's why we are burning the paddy residue. And they urge the government to incentivize this paddy residue or give cash in their hands so that they can hire laborers to clear this field. With Tanmo in Moga, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
32 farm unions of Punjab will meet the State Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi this morning. This is the first such meeting between farmers and the Chief Minister. The farmers are likely to ask the Chief Minister to approach the Supreme Court over the contentious farm laws. Now, with elections in Punjab just months away now, all parties are trying a mega outreach to farmers ahead of the polls. The Kartarpur Sahib corridor, the road to Darbar Sahib Kartarpur in Pakistan, will reopen today, 2 days before the birth anniversary of Guru Nanak. The Home Minister tweeted this on Tuesday, saying the decision would benefit a large number of Sikh pilgrims. The centre has consistently blamed Pakistan for not reopening the 4.4-kilometre corridor, now shut for more than a year. This is a major decision that will benefit a large number of Sikh pilgrims. The Narendra Modi government has decided to reopen the Kartar Sahib corridor from the 17th of November. The decision reflects the immense reverence of the Modi government towards Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji and our Sikh community, is what the Home Minister tweeted. Prime Minister Modi has inaugurated the Purvanchal Express in Uttar Pradesh with a political rally and an Indian Air Force air display. The 340-kilometre expressway was built at a cost of 22,500 crore rupees. The Prime Minister landed on the expressway in an Air Force C-130J Super Hercules. There was landings by Mirage 2000, Sukhois and Jaguar jets were part of the air display at the inauguration of the expressway.
रंग देश की आन बान शान के प्रतीक हमें तिरंगे झंडे की याद दिलाते हैं। मिराज 2000।
Indian Air Force fighter jets touching down on the Purvanchal Expressway. Minutes after Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the 341-kilometre long road, the showpiece project of the Adityanath government, months before Uttar Pradesh's crucial state election. The expressway connects state capital Lucknow to Ghazipur in eastern UP. The Bihar border is 20 kilometers away. The expressway cost 22,500 crore rupees and took 3 years to build.
Thousands of people gathered near the rally ground to watch this air show that was put up by jets of the Indian Air Force. This, of course, was after the Prime Minister gave a 30 to 40 minute speech here in Uttar Pradesh's Sultanpur.
Even though this was a government event organized by the agency which built the highway, crowds had been brought in for a political style rally, with the Prime Minister blasting the opposition.
यहाँ सड़कों पर राह नहीं होती थी, राह जनी होती थी। पूरब के लोगों के लिए लखनऊ पहुंचना भी महाभारत जीतने जैसा होता था।
The political attack was preceded by Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav tweeting this photograph, claiming the foundation stone for the project was laid in 2016 when he was chief minister, and that the project was designed during his government's rule. The UP BJP had tweeted back this jibe, asking Akhilesh why he hadn't taken credit even for the Ram temple construction.
आज तक भी समाजवादी पार्टी के बनाए हुए कामों का ही उद्घाटन हो रहा है। तमाम काम मुख्यमंत्री जी वही कर रहे हैं, जिनका शिलान्यास काम शुरुआत समाजवादी सरकार में हुआ था।
जो अपने समय में असफल रहे, वो योगी जी की सफलता भी नहीं देख पा रहे हैं।
A bigger controversy. Why was public money spent on a quasi-political event? Hundreds of UP government buses brought crowds to the function. Those who travelled on the buses say village pradhans urged them to attend the event.
One point of contention between the government and opposition parties is the use of government buses to ferry people. I'm standing on the roof of a UPSRTC bus, which is a government bus here, to show you these shots of a sea of buses here who are ferrying people to the rally. 95% of these buses are UP government buses. For instance, this bus that Rajesh will just pan and show you to this side perhaps, or this one here. They are all UP government buses. आप लोग इसी बसों में बैठ के आए हैं?
हाँ, बसों में बैठ के आए हैं।
कोई प्रचार हुआ था आपके गांव में कि आपको आना है या?
हाँ, ब्लॉक जरिए प्लस प्रधान के जरिए हमें सूचना मिली थी।
हम आशा बहू हैं।
अच्छा, आशा बहू
जी।
तो आप इन लोग को लेके आई हैं?
नहीं, हम लेकर नहीं आए, हम
अकेले आए?
साथ नहीं, ये लोग साथ में हैं, लेकिन हमको कोई सूचना नहीं थी, इसलिए प्रधान भी द्वारा नहीं था, हम अपने आप आए हैं।
The mass recruitment of government buses for the rally meant hardly any were available to commuters in government bus stations in nearby towns like Varanasi and Ayodhya.
मैं इलाहाबाद जाना है मुझे, और मैं सुबह 7:30 बजे से खड़ा हूँ, 9:30 बज चुका है, लेकिन अभी तक जो है कोई बस नहीं यहाँ रोडवेज पे है, न कहीं से आ रही।
यहाँ पर कोई गाड़ी नहीं है, सुबह से खड़े हैं और हमको बनारस जाना है।
Controversy apart, the expressway is expected to improve connectivity vastly to the state's underdeveloped eastern region. With Ashok and camera person Rajesh Gupta, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Time for a very quick break. Still ahead, a teacher's arrest in Coimbatore amid growing outrage after a class 12 student's suicide. More in a moment. Welcome back. Tata Consultancy Services has asked its employees to return to offices in preparation for its 25-25 model that's expected to be implemented by the year 2025. The company says under this new model, by 2025, no more than 25% of employees will need to work from office at any given point and will not need to spend more than 25% of their time in office either.
A fresh work model is in sight, at least for tech professionals. India's largest IT firm, TCS, has called its workers back to their deployed office locations in a flexible and phased manner, beginning December. Another, Tech Mahindra, is allowing employees to choose their work location only till December as of now. But after this return, TCS is already working towards a hybrid model, what it calls the 25-25 model. This means that by 2025, only 25% of its workforce will be in office. The rest, 3 out of 4, will be work from home. A spokesperson says hybrid models of work are here to stay. This Hyderabad couple agrees.
Work from home is a thing that's going to continue for a long while. It's economical for all. It's convenient for the employee. Flexibility is there. Travel time, we save on travel time. Related cost also. Health is good. We are with the family also. We work and saves a lot for the company, as I said earlier.
Hybrid model is definitely far more welcoming. It's a more welcoming thought than having to continue for work from home for, forever, for eternity. I mean, I don't think that's really good for the mental health. Also, hybrid, yes, definitely, that's the way to go.
As per the latest return to workplace survey by IT industry body NASSCOM, both employees and employers are equally interested in returning to work in a hybrid setup, and around 50% of the workforce is likely to return to office for up to 3 days a week starting next year. With Uma Sudhir, Sakshi Bajaj for NDTV.
A school teacher has been arrested after a class 12 student died by suicide in Coimbatore. The teen was allegedly sexually assaulted by the teacher earlier this year. Sam Daniel with that disturbing report.
A 31-year-old physics teacher has been arrested in Coimbatore after the death by suicide on Thursday of a 12th class student who he allegedly assaulted sexually earlier this year. There was public outcry after WhatsApp chats and an audio conversation that NDTV could not independently verify went viral, suggesting sexual abuse of 2 other girls by the same teacher. The police have also detained the headmistress of the private school for not acting on the girl's complaint under the law to prevent sexual offences against children.
And I think this is what schools need to realize, that it's not a reflection of the school. The way they address the abuse once it is disclosed or once it's reported to them, that is a reflection of the school.
In a statement, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has said, perversion of a few has snatched away a student's life. Schools ought to ensure there is no sexual harassment. We would present the perpetrators before law and ensure women's safety. Every time a case of an abuse in a school comes up, it's a realization that measures put in place to ensure sexual safety, reporting and stringent action against alleged perpetrators have failed. And this time, it has cost a student's life. In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find It TV.
Still ahead, what the US is telling its citizens about travel to Jammu and Kashmir. We bring you details in just a moment. Welcome back to Good Morning India. Our big focus this morning, a series of tough measures to battle Delhi and the National Capital Region's air emergency as toxic smog continues to envelop these regions. Now, all schools and colleges are going to be shut until further notice. That's what the Commission for Air Quality Management has said. Now, they are likely to return to online classes again. A 9-page order issued by this Air Quality Monitoring Panel, the CAQM, has also advised the state governments of Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan and UP to allow at least 50% of the staff to work from home until the 21st of November. Private firms are also being encouraged to allow at least 50% of their staff to work from home. Several other measures as well. Construction activity stopped with just a few essential exceptions. The order calls for heavy penalties for those who are responsible for stacking construction material or waste. Only 5 out of 11 thermal power plants in Delhi and NCR are going to be operative in this period. States have also been directed to stop the entry of trucks to the national capital, except for those that carry essential commodities. This will, of course, be reviewed once again after the 21st of November. So, finally, clearly, this is now battleground, that a war that needs to be won, but all these measures, have they come too late? Well, let's take this straight across. 2 panelists who are joining us this morning. Santosh Harish, Fellow at the Center for Policy Research, is with us this morning. Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, the Dean of KEM Hospital in Mumbai, is with us. And that's because Mumbai has also been facing massive air pollution levels, very unlike that city given its proximity to the sea. Bhabreen Kandhari, environmentalist and member of My Right to Breathe, is also with us. Santosh Harish, your thoughts first on the measures that we are now seeing being outlined. Do you believe that this is actually going to make a difference given the levels to which air pollution have already climbed this year?
Thanks for having me. No, I think as you put it, it's not obvious that this has been done in a timely way. Arguably, you could say that much of what we experience, should have actually been tackled months before, weeks before. That said, I'm glad that the Commission on Air Quality Management, this new, very powerful body that was created by an act of Parliament, has taken a substantive action. I think this is the first sort of substantive effort we have seen from their end. But I mean, questions, remain about whether when you have a graded response action plan, something that has been in place for years now, whether every year we need to sort of rely on this sort of last minute intervention in a very reactive way. Must we keep reinventing the wheel? Why cannot the graphs, for example, be revisited early on when there isn't sort of hazardous levels of air pollution all around us? Why can't these actions be taken based on forecasts? So in some ways, this particular action has been justified based on that. But yeah, I mean, I think like you said, the timing leaves much to be desired. But I'm glad that the commission has taken some effort. Will this make a big difference? I'm not 100% sure it will. It will be a small. It will help to a small extent. But that's perhaps all that we can expect.
Right. At this point, every little step counts, presumably. Dr. Hemant Deshmukh, your thoughts. We're seeing these emergency measures now in Delhi and its surrounding areas, but really farm fires and other issues contributing to almost a pan-India problem at this stage. Even Mumbai has seen sort of, very high pollution levels. Are you seeing an increase in respiratory illnesses that you're treating? And, do you believe that emergency measures at this point will work?
Yeah, good morning. What Delhi has seen in the last few days, I think it is being replicated in the city of Mumbai because of its proximity to the coast. We have something which is right now low temperatures, we have low wind speed, we have high humidity, and these are the factors which are definitely not modifiable. But the things which are modifiable and contribute to the air quality index is definitely vehicular traffic and something which is garbage burning from either the dumping grounds or probably from the chimneys of chemical industries. These two modifiable factors, especially the vehicular traffic, can definitely be restricted. What we are really interested is the particulate matter, which is 2.5 or maybe probably 5, which gets suspended in the air, and this quantum of air which is respirable, these particulate matter enters the lower respiratory tract, and this triggers a mechanism wherein we get a lot of lower respiratory tract infections. And this is the time of the season, or this is the time of the year that we see a lot of asthma patients coming back to the hospital with probably a lot of wheezing and low respiratory tract infections. What we need to understand is that anything which is more than 10 is going to be very hazardous. Anything which is less than 5 particulate matter, obviously this is respirable, and you need to reduce this definitely by putting a lot of curbs on vehicular traffic and definitely adopting green energy as the days come by or as the years come by.
Dr. Deshmukh, your thoughts on sort of shutting down schools and colleges at this point? Are you seeing more cases of respiratory illness and distress among children? Is it really advisable at this point when there's been such a long hiatus anyway in children going to school to extend that further?
Yeah, I think anyway Bombay is trying to restrict the entry of children into the schools right now. What we are planning probably in the last week of November in the city of Mumbai. And definitely this is going to be a lockdown for the colleges and the schools also. This pandemic has seen a lot of lockdown. This is one kind of lockdown which is going to benefit the children in particular. And definitely once the air quality index improves, I think we can definitely take a call, though I am not directly responsible for opening up of the schools because of the air quality index.
Okay. Bhavleen Kandari, both as an environmentalist, an activist for clean air, but also as a parent, your thoughts on this, because kids have been away from school for an extended period of time already. Just when there was a sense of normalcy, now once again they're going to be, away from school again. Your thoughts on this? Do you think that it's necessary at this point because of the pollution levels we're seeing?
This is a very catch-22 situation, as a parent especially, because you want the children now going back to schools and, taking on their regular routines. But Obviously, we know the AQI is poor, as well as I also firmly believe that the masses, it doesn't matter to them because they are anyway out. They are, they don't have the purifiers or homes which can protect them. So it's quite, firstly, I don't want to even call these measures. These are all reactions. These are all knee-jerk reactions because the measures is something that we should have taken throughout the year. Whether it was, absolutely not cutting trees or making sure the waste management is in place or vehicular. You didn't even add one public transport bus, into the cities. Anything. I mean, everything. It doesn't matter which government or governments, but there were just too many, lapses, and we don't do strategic moves. We want to do only photo optic stuff, and that is the result we are in right now, and we will be again. If we are just concentrating on smoke towers and smoke guns, those are not going to be the solutions. The thermal power plants don't have to shut down for these few days. They have to regulate their norms. The emission norms have to be regulated throughout the year. For all thermal power plants. So every source of pollution has these shortcomings that we are not working on, and that is what we really need to do seriously. And like you said, for these measures of shutting down schools, work from home for that matter, that is anyway a very good solution. And it's not like we had good air throughout the year. We had only one day of good air in October. Right. So it's not like the air was clean. So this should be anyway encouraged with most institutions, and this is a step forward, for future, for further years. It's not a 2 month, 6 month problem. If we have to work on this on a war footing, it has to be now a permanent habits that we will have to bring in, whether it's the government or the citizens.
Fair enough. Santosh Harish, do you, agree with that assessment that these are in effect knee-jerk reactions rather than sort of permanent ongoing changes? And until we have those coming into operation, it's really not going to change. It's presumably this time of the year, the sort of combination of circumstances, farm fires, the weather factors, vehicular pollution, all kind of coming together when people can actually experience the bad air firsthand. But really, if you look at the rest of the year, we're not exactly breathing clean air either.
No, that's exactly right. I think we're locked into this cycle where the only time we take air pollution seriously is when we're able to sort of see it and smell it. That's a terrible way to approach it because pollution levels are poor in much of North India for more than half the year, not just in Delhi. And this requires year-round efforts, right? Air pollution levels are also very poor in many rural parts of India, in industrial parts of India, right? So this requires a year-round nationwide effort. I completely agree that even when it comes to, like city-specific actions, things that are part of these graded response action plan type measures, waste burning, construction dust, this requires, sort of implementation throughout the year. You cannot suddenly get compliance. Suddenly people won't stop waste burning. I mean, this is not the right way to think about it. Right? Going back to your earlier question, I certainly don't think that locking down things, shutting down schools is the answer. In many ways, it's sort of a signal of defeat that, dekho humse na kuch na ho payega, right? This is just beyond us, and we are unable to sort of tackle air pollution on a regular basis, and therefore have to shut down activities.
Right.
Children are not necessarily less exposed to air pollution in most homes compared to their schools. So I don't quite know why this particular trade-off is being made. Arguably that they're better off in schools, and you identify, schools as one of the areas where proactively defensive measures are taken. Proactively are setting up purifiers and so on in schools, in hospitals, to make this environment.
Right. I think that's a very important point that you make, Santosh Harish. I mean, a lot of this also seems to be really a carryover of restrictions that were already being done for the lockdown, and it seems not a lot of effort has been put into sort of thinking out of the box. It's like, this has worked in the past because of the pandemic. Let's just carry on with this. So it's more sort of being in limbo than anything else. But Dr. Deshmukh, your advice to people at this point, how can they protect themselves against sort of respiratory illnesses? What precautions should they be taking, even in a situation which seems so all-encompassing?
Yeah, following this pandemic of COVID-19, the air quality index is definitely not modifiable right away for the next 2 weeks. But what I would advise everybody is to avoid a lot of vehicular traffic or walking along roads without a proper mask. And this is going to affect them in a very long period, because inhaling anything which is particulate matter 2.5 or more is going to be very harmful for their lower respiratory tract. Whatever the particulate matter they are taking inside the nose and the lower respiratory tract is going to trigger a mechanism wherein the allergic response is going to definitely cause a lot of respiratory infections amongst the citizens of Mumbai or Delhi, or probably in the entire country. I would advise them that they should remain indoors until they want an emergency solution outside their homes. This is only a modifiable factor. But as everybody has pointed out, what we need to understand as preventing this, probably the next winter, is going to be a big task. And enforcing all probable avoidable measures will definitely help in the long run.
All right. Thank you all very much indeed, Santosh Harish, Dr. Hemant Deshmukh and Bhavreen Kandhari, for being with us this morning. No doubt this is something we're going to keep talking about. Let's hope, even if it makes a little difference, there is some positive change thanks to these measures being taken. Even if they're knee-jerk, let's hope for all our sakes that they make some difference. The other big story right now, the US in its latest travel advisory to its citizens has told them not to travel to Jammu and Kashmir except eastern Ladakh and Leh. The reasons being given are terrorism and civil unrest. The advisory goes on to say that sporadic violence occurs along the line of control that separates India and Pakistan. India in any way prohibits foreign tourists from visiting certain areas along the line of control. The US travel advisory goes on to say do not travel alone, particularly if you're a woman. Indian authorities report rape is one of the fastest growing crimes in India. Violent crimes such as sexual assault has occurred at tourist sites and in other locations. 4 people, including 2 businessmen, in fact, were killed during an anti-terrorist operation by security forces in Srinagar. Police said 2 terrorists were killed and that the killed businessmen were terrorist supporters. The families allege the men were killed in cold blood by security forces. Police insists both of them were killed in terrorist firing or in crossfire. Nazir Masoodi reports.
In Srinagar, Dr. Mudassir Gul's family in mourning. They allege the police killed the dental surgeon cum businessman during an encounter and then buried him 100 kilometers away. However, the police allege that the 2 businessmen were terror supporters and were killed either by terrorists or during the crossfire.
बिस्किट लाया था, ये लाया था, वो खुश हो गया, हमारा बाबा आया था, फिर वो ऑफिस चला गया, ऑफिस में इनकाउंटर हुआ, इसने क्या किया था, क्या किया था, बॉडी वापस करो, ये बेचारा अपना बिजनेस कर रहा है।
हम लोगों को लॉ एंड ऑर्डर होने का अंदेशा था, इसलिए हम लोग बॉडी घर वाले को नहीं दिए, उसको हंदवाड़ा डिस्ट्रिक्ट ले गए, वहाँ आज मॉर्निंग में उनका विडियो हो गया।
The police claim Dr. Gul sheltered terrorists and transported a terrorist who attacked a police party on Sunday in Srinagar. The family contested the police claim, saying Dr. Mudassir was out of Kashmir and returned on Monday morning. The anti-terrorist operation was launched inside a commercial complex at Haidarpura bypass in Srinagar on Monday evening. The family alleged that businessman and complex owner Muhammad Altaf Bhatt was killed in cold blood.
वहाँ जो डॉक्टर जो शहीद हो गए हैं, जो वहाँ पे थे, जो गवाह थे उस मौके के, उनको भी शहीद किया गया है। अब मैं आप लोगों को यही एक अपील कर रही हूँ कि प्लीज मेरे पापा की डेड बॉडी वापस कीजिए, वो मान नहीं रहे।
Police say 2 terrorists have been killed during the operation and 2 pistols have been recovered. The locals say that one of them was working as a peon in the commercial complex.
एनकाउंटर में 2 टेररिस्ट मारे गए। एक का बिलाल भाई कहते हैं और कोई हैदर भी बोलता है। बहुत बड़ी ये पाकिस्तानी टेररिस्ट है। दूसरा लोकल टेररिस्ट है। शायद ये रामपाट बनियान साइड का है। उनके घर वाले को बुला रहे हैं।
All the political parties have denounced killings and demanded an impartial probe. While police say both the businessmen were terror supporters, the families demand justice. The least they want is return of dead bodies of Dr. Mudassir and Altaf Bhatt so that they can perform their last rites. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi, Findi TV.
India has said that any meaningful dialogue can only be held in an atmosphere that's free of terror, hostility and violence, and that it will continue to take firm and decisive action against cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan. New Delhi's representation at the UN said this when Pakistan's ambassador to the UN raked up the Kashmir issue once again.
This is not the first time the representative of Pakistan has misused platforms provided by the UN to propagate false and malicious propaganda against my country, and seeking in vain to divert the world's attention from the sad state of his country, where terrorists enjoy free pass while the lives of ordinary people, especially those belonging to the minority communities, are turned upside down.
The news updates continue. Do stay with us. First up, our big story today. All schools and colleges in Delhi and nearby cities are to stay closed until further notice. This direction, one of several, comes as the National Capital Region battles the toxic smog that has blanketed the city since Diwali. Now, all educational institutions are likely to return to online classes for now. A 9-page order issued by the CAQM, the body that came into effect by parliamentary decree, has advised NCR state governments, Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan and UP to allow at least 50% of staff to work from home until the 21st of November. Private firms are being encouraged to do this as well. Construction activities and demolition projects across the region have been stopped until the 21st of November as well, with exemptions made only for essential services and operations and defense-related activities. Now, several other measures also put in place. Only 5 of 11 thermal power plants in Delhi will be operative. Trucks have been banned entry to the national capital, except for those carrying essential commodities. Petrol and diesel vehicles older than 15 and 10 years, respectively, won't be allowed on the roads. Now, the Delhi government and the centre are facing uncomfortable questions from the Supreme Court over the lack of planning and response to the air quality crisis. All right, we're joined right now by Meher Pandey from the National Capital, Saurabh Gupta joining us live from Mumbai, which unusually too has been facing a big spike in air pollution levels. Meher, to you first, give us a sense of how these measures are playing out right now, particularly the construction, the ban on construction already being challenged by workers' unions.
Yes, so right now we're in Delhi's iconic Lodi Garden. As you can see behind me, the sun is out today and the air does look better, but if you still look far away, there is a haze. Delhi's air pollution today is in the very poor category, touching the severe category. It's in the high 300s, which means that it's close to being in the severe category, which actually impacts healthy people as well. Of course, late last night, there was an order by the Supreme Court appointed commission for Delhi NCR's air quality, and they have passed a few measures, some very key ones. One is that Delhi schools, NCR schools that had just reopened, which had shut for the pandemic, just reopened, will now be shut again until further notice. So all classes will be online. Government and private offices will now start work from home. Government will for sure go work from home for 50%, and private offices have been advised to do so. Thermal power plants, which are an important source of air pollution, 5 out of 11 in the NCR region will be allowed to function. Rest will be shut. And also, as you said, the construction sites have been banned as well. This has already been challenged in the Supreme Court by unions of construction workers who say that they are not being compensated for how this their sites are being shut, and they are losing out on daily wages, crucial daily wages for poor people who rely on these sites. So as you can see, there is a certain level of last minute frantic kind of decision making in this order that was passed. These decisions are actually not new. Since 2015, the Pollution Commission, the Central Pollution Commission, has been trying to reduce emissions by thermal power plants all across the country. But all of these decisions had been delayed further and further until now. Again, we are shutting down thermal power plants entirely. So there is not a lot of planning. This is a problem that has existed for many years now. There are some people here, and if we have the time, we will talk to some of them about who they're here to actually exercise in this air. But of course, sir, यहाँ पर pollution की आज दिल्ली में बहुत problem है. जी. आप क्या कहेंगे?
पोल्यूशन दिल्ली में बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है. दिल्ली ना जैसे धुएं का एक चैम्बर बन गई है. हम लोग मॉर्निंग में आते हैं तो बड़ी प्रॉब्लम होती है. तो इतना डस्ट लग जाता है मुंह में और खांसी वगैरह काफी हो रही है. तो सरकारों को सोचना चाहिए कि दिल्ली वैसे रहने लायक शहर नहीं रह गया है. तो सभी सरकारों को, सब लोगों को सोचना चाहिए कि दिल्ली का कुछ करें जिससे हम लोग स्वच्छ हवा में जीवन व्यतीत कर सकें.
सर, कल रात को एक ऑर्डर आया था कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम फिर से स्टार्ट हो जाएगा, स्कूल फिर से बंद हो जाएंगे. आप इस पर क्या कहेंगे?
मैम देखिए, स्कूल्स और ऑफिसेज को जो हमेशा टारगेट बनाया जाता है कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम देने के लिए, बट मैं उससे ठीक है सहमत हूँ. अभी कंडीशन जिस हिसाब से पॉल्यूशन की चल रही है, बट अगर हम इसको वर्क फ्रॉम होम ना करके अगर हम इकट्ठा एकता के साथ चलें, जैसे एक ऑफिस में अगर 5 एम्प्लॉयज हैं, 5 एक ही जगह से आ रहे हैं, तो एक अगर गाड़ी यूज हो जाए उसमें तो ऑफिस दोबारा से चालू हो सकता है. ऐसा हम खुद भी नहीं करते हैं. हमें पॉल्यूशन को कंट्रोल करने के लिए सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि चाहे वो जो मर्जी हो, हमारे देश के हों, कहीं से भी हों, दिल्ली को अगर एकता रखनी है तो दिल्ली को एकता रखने के लिए है कि हमें पॉल्यूशन में खुद भी कंट्रोल करना पड़ेगा. हम खुद ही कंट्रोल नहीं कर रहे हैं. आज एक घर में 4 गाड़ियां हैं और चारों गाड़ियां वही काम पे जा रही हैं, सेम ऑफिस में जा रहे हैं. पहले बेटा बाद में जाता है, पिताजी बाद में जाते हैं, तो ऐसे करते करते 4 गाड़ियां चल रही हैं. तो वो 4 गाड़ियां चल क्यों रही हैं? उसमें पॉल्यूशन कर रहा है. अब ट्रैफिक लाइट पे किसी को अगर हम बोल दें कि आपकी गाड़ी स्टार्ट है, आप थोड़ी देर के लिए अपनी गाड़ी को बंद कर दीजिए. केजरीवाल सरकार की तरफ से जो ऐलान हुआ पड़ा है, उन्होंने बताया कि पॉल्यूशन में कंट्रोल करने के लिए करना क्या है कि कुछ देर के लिए गाड़ी बंद कर दो. उनमें अगर किसी को बोल देते तो लोग बहुत नाराज हो जाते हैं कि यार तू मुझे क्यों तंग कर रहा है, मेरा पेट्रोल है, मैं भरवाऊंगा, जो मर्जी करूंगा. तो ये चीजों के लिए हमें खुद करना पड़ेगा. बाकी ऑफिसेज बंद करने का, वर्क फ्रॉम होम करने का, इसका कोई मेन सॉल्यूशन नहीं निकलेगा, क्योंकि मोस्टली जितने भी ऑफिसेज की पब्लिक है वो मेट्रो से ट्रैवल करती है या पब्लिक बस से ट्रैवल करती है.
So, as they are mentioning, vehicular pollution in Delhi is actually a major cause. Local pollution is actually 50% due to vehicles only. And of course, the new orders do a blanket ban on things like construction sites, but still, vehicular pollution is not, they're not striking at the core, the source of this pollution. Right. Work from home will have important consequences for this. But schemes like odd even or haven't actually been implemented yet.
Saurabh, Mumbai has also been seeing high pollution levels, though currently in the moderate zone. What's the latest we're hearing there? Any special measures being considered at all?
Well, not really. Mumbai's reasons are different, and Mumbai is obviously much better than Delhi if you look at the situation here. But there are a few areas in Mumbai which are problematic, and one of them is, of course, Navy Nagar in Kolaba, which at 8 o'clock this morning was showing AQI of 300, which is, of course, in the poor category. I'm in Mazgaon, which also is almost 300 in terms of AQI. It's 295.
and this area is also in the poor category. So this is of course something that's a worry. Now what the experts are saying is that slow wind speeds have contributed to rising pollution levels in Mumbai post-monsoon, but they say that there are going to be some showers likely because of a low pressure forming in the Arabian Sea, and if Mumbai and Thane get some showers in the evening, then perhaps the level of pollution will come down, and even places like Navy Nagar will be getting some relief, and also Mazgaon, which also has recorded a high AQI, which is Air Quality Index, will also get some relief. So that's where it is. In Mumbai, you really don't feel it in the air like you do in Delhi in terms of pollution. In Delhi, what the situation is, what people feel in the air. In Mumbai, it's much better than that. But of course, it's a cause of concern because also, like that gentleman was pointing out in Delhi and in Mumbai, in terms of culture, a lot more people use public transport in this city than depend on private cars. So the dependence on public transport is much higher. Then you also have Mumbai has a new EV policy where the government has already made it clear that the entire fleet of BEST or the Brihan Mumbai Electric Supply and Transport Undertaking buses will be converted to electric by 2023, and many of those electric buses are already running in the city. That's one measure to cut down on pollution. Then of course, a rather environment friendly, though may not be as comfortable as people would like it, but environment friendly and convenient mode of transport in Mumbai is the local trains. So dependence on public transport in terms of culture in this city is much more than what you have in Delhi, where everyone likes to drive their own car. So all of these issues contribute to Mumbai in terms of air pollution being a much better city, but it is a cause of concern, and slow winds post-monsoon have been resulting in AQI rising in certain parts of the city. Examples being Navy Nagar, the air quality index in Bandra Kurla complex is also not quite good, and again that's a business area. And of course here in Mazgaon, where I am, also the air quality index has almost touched 300 this morning.
Right, Saurabh and Meher, thanks very much indeed for joining us with updates from both those cities. Meanwhile, the big story from Delhi, construction labour unions have moved the Supreme Court against the ban on construction activities in Delhi and Haryana. They're seeking compensation. Sukirti joining us with more details. Sukirti, what are we hearing?
Well, yes, construction labour unions have moved the Supreme Court. They filed an application in the Supreme Court saying they want to become a part of this Delhi NCR pollution case that is already being heard. Now, these labour unions are saying that these abrupt blanket bans that are imposed every now and then by these governments, they cause a lot of financial losses as well as hardships to these labourers. They've already suffered a lot in the pandemic, and now because of these lockdowns due to pollution, they are suffering even more. What they're demanding is that all of this ban should be limited to demolition and excavation activities only. Several other non-polluting activities that are connected to construction, they also end up suffering as a result of these bans. For example, carpenters, plumbers, welders, a lot of these workers who work when a house is being constructed, other construction activities are going on, these people get employment, but their employment is also suffering because of these blanket bans. So at least these non-polluting construction activities, construction-related activities, at least they should be exempted from this ban. Also, these labourers are demanding that instead of such abrupt bans, there should be at least 15 days of notice before any such ban is being put into place. Last demand that they have is that there should be proper compensation that these labourers should be given for the number of days on for which they lose out on work. So Delhi and Haryana, both who have put in these bans on construction activities, they should also compensate these labourers.
Sukirti, thank you for those details. Now, in Delhi's neighbouring Punjab, farm fires are at a record high in the last 5 years. Farmers say they have no choice but to burn paddy residue year after year. Why has there been no solution to this problem? Mohammad Ghazali finds out.
There have been more stubble burning incidents in Punjab than in the last 5 years, according to an estimate by a NASA scientist. On the ground, a marginal farmer, Gurmail Singh in Moga district, is one of them. and explains why there are more fires.
ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਪਰਾਲੀ ਤੇ ਆਉਂ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਿੱਕੇ ਜ਼ਿਮੀਂਦਾਰ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਜ਼ਮੀਨ ਪਰਾਲੀ 2 ਏਕੜ ਆ ਪਰਾਲੀ ਜਲਣਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਜਬੂਰੀ ਆ ਕੋਈ ਸ਼ੌਂਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਦਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਡੀਜ਼ਲ ਦਾ ਖਰਚਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਪੂਰਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਹਜੇ ਕੰਮ ਨਿਕਲਦਾ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਰਾਲੀ ਬਾਲਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਜਬੂਰ ਆ
1 एकड़ जमीन को चावल काटना होता है,
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
की कटाई होती है, तो 1 एकड़ में ट्रैक्टर का कितना तेल लगता है?
20 लीटर तेल लगता।
और अगर इसी 1 एकड़ में पराली साफ करना हो ट्रैक्टर या मशीन लगा के तो कितना तेल लगता है?
20 लीटर फिर लगेगा, 40 हो गया।
The main reason remains the hurry to clear the stubble for the sowing of the next crop. But higher costs of diesel and the fertilizer shortage in some parts means it's become harder to pay the 5,000 rupees or so that Gurmail Singh would need for the machines. That's a lot from his expected earning of about 62,000. So, burning is economical. Another farmer, Harvinder Singh, explains why the government subsidized machines are not enough.
ਹੁਣ ਉਹ ਹਫਤਾ ਜੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਹਫਤਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੰਘ ਜੂਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਾਹਣ ਫੇਰ ਸੁੱਕ ਜੂ ਉਸ ਮਸ਼ੀਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਆਸ਼ਾ ਟਰੈਕਟਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹ ਖਿੱਚ ਲੂਗਾ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਖਿੱਚ ਲੂਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਿੱਚ ਸਕਦਾ
Both the centre and the state say that the number of machines has increased this year, and at a time when the politicians in power, regardless of party, should have devised a bipartisan solution, they are blaming each other.
देखिए जब दिल्ली में इलेक्शन थी तो इन्होंने ये कहना शुरू किया था कि ये पोल्यूशन जो है और उन्होंने बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा भी बनाया था उस समय इलेक्शन में मुझे याद है कोई भी ऐसा पोल्यूशन पंजाब में दिखाई नहीं दे रहा
Across Punjab the farmers have just one response. It is our compulsion, that's why we are burning the paddy residue, and they urge the government to incentivize this paddy residue or give cash in their hands so that they can hire laborers to clear this field. With Tanmo in Moga, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
Meanwhile, 32 farm unions of Punjab will meet Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi this morning. This is the first such meeting between farmers and the Chief Minister. Farmers may now demand that the Punjab Chief Minister approach the Supreme Court over the new farm laws. Ahead of state elections, all parties are reaching out to farmers on that issue. Welcome back. The Kartarpur Sahib corridor, the road to Darbar Sahib in Pakistan, will reopen today, 2 days before Gurpurab, the birth anniversary of Guru Nanak. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah tweeting this on Tuesday, saying the decision would benefit a large number of Sikh pilgrims. The centre had blamed Pakistan for not reopening the corridor, which has been shut for more than a year. Amit Shah tweeted, in a major decision that will benefit a large number of pilgrims, the Narendra Modi government has decided to reopen the Kartarpur Sahib corridor from the 17th of November. The decision reflects the immense reverence of the Modi government towards Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji and our Sikh community. A school teacher has been arrested after a class 12 student died by suicide in Coimbatore. The teen was allegedly sexually assaulted by the teacher earlier this year. Complaints to the school were not followed up on. Sam Daniel reports.
A 31-year-old physics teacher has been arrested in Coimbatore after the death by suicide on Thursday of a 12th class student who he allegedly assaulted sexually earlier this year. There was public outcry after WhatsApp chats and an audio conversation that NDTV could not independently verify went viral, suggesting sexual abuse of 2 other girls by the same teacher. The police have also detained the headmistress of the private school for not acting on the girl's complaint under the law to prevent sexual offences against children.
And I think this is what schools need to realize, that it's not a reflection of the school. The way they address the abuse once it is disclosed or once it's reported to them, that is a reflection of the school.
In a statement, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has said, perversion of a few has snatched away a student's life. Schools ought to ensure there is no sexual harassment. We would present the perpetrators before law and ensure women's safety.
Every time a case of an abuse in a school comes up, it's a realization that measures put in place to ensure sexual safety, reporting and stringent action against alleged perpetrators have failed. And this time, it has cost a student's life. In Chennai with Suresh,
Sam Daniel, Find It TV.
Welcome back to Good Morning India. The big story breaking right now. The Union Home Secretary will chair a meeting on the recent civilian killings in Jammu and Kashmir as well as the current ground situation there. This meeting particularly significant as it comes just 2 days ahead of the annual DGP's conference, which is organized by the Intelligence Bureau. This year it's being held in Lucknow and Prime Minister Modi is expected to chair it. Now, this of course comes after the latest round of killings in Jammu and Kashmir. We've been reporting 4 people, including 2 businessmen, killed during an anti-terrorist operation by security forces in Srinagar. But of course, even earlier, several instances of civilian killings in Jammu and Kashmir. Neeta joining us at this point with the latest on that. Neeta, explain the significance of this meeting to us.
Ankita, there was this meeting which was chaired by the Union Home Minister last month there in Jammu and Kashmir. There he had, tasked all the forces. So today the Union Home Secretary is going to review because lot many concerns were raised by various intelligence agencies, which are operating in Jammu and Kashmir about a whole lot of issues. And the recent spate of civilian killings which has been taking place, 2 days back there was an encounter. Questions are being raised about that also. So the Union Home Secretary is obviously going to review. And the Home Minister had tasked the entire force of mapping the border area, having a proper grid around the border area. So this huge exercise was also going on both in Jammu sector also and also in Kashmir sector also. So that review is also going to be done because in last couple of months we have seen many cases in which drone droppings have been done from across the border to our territory. So that is also going to be reviewed. This is very interesting because today this meeting is taking place just 2 days ahead of this annual DGP meeting which is going to be held in Lucknow. That is going to be chaired by the Prime Minister of India. Various states head are going to participate and J&K obviously holds a lot of importance as far as the security scenario of India is concerned. So today in a prep up to that, the Union Home Secretary is going to chair a meeting. The Union Territory, Mr. Dilbag Singh, the DGP of the UT and also the CID head, Mr. Swain, is going to attend the meeting here in Delhi, which is going to be held sometime in the afternoon. Ankita?
All right, Neeta, we'll track that with you. Thanks so much for joining us with that update. Now, 4 people, including 2 businessmen, have been killed during an anti-terror operation by security forces in Srinagar. Nazir Masoodi reports.
In Srinagar, Dr. Mudassir Gul's family in mourning. They allege the police killed the dental surgeon cum businessman during an encounter and then buried him 100 kilometers away. However, the police allege that the 2 businessmen were terror supporters and were killed either by terrorists or during the crossfire.
बिस्किट लाया था, ये लाया था, वो खुश हो गया। हमारा बाबा आया था, फिर वो ऑफिस चला गया, ऑफिस में इनकाउंटर हुआ। इसने क्या किया था? क्या किया? डेड बॉडी वापस करो, ये बेचारा अपना बिजनेस कर रहा है।
हम लोग को लॉ एंड ऑर्डर होने का अंदेशा था, इसलिए हम लोग बॉडी घर वाले को नहीं दिए, उसको हंदवाड़ा डिस्ट्रिक्ट ले गए। वहाँ आज मॉर्निंग में उनका वीडियो हो गया।
The police claim Dr. Gul sheltered terrorists and transported a terrorist who attacked a police party on Sunday in Srinagar. The family contested the police claim, saying Dr. Mudassir was out of Kashmir and returned on Monday morning. The anti-terrorist operation was launched inside a commercial complex at Haidarpura bypass in Srinagar on Monday evening. The family alleged that businessman and complex owner Muhammad Altaf Bhatt was killed in cold blood.
वहाँ जो डॉक्टर जो शहीद हो गए हैं, जो वहाँ पे थे, जो गवाह थे उस मौके के, उनको भी शहीद किया गया है। अब मैं आप लोगों को यही एक अपील कर रही हूँ कि प्लीज मेरे पापा की डेड बॉडी वापस कीजिए, वो मान नहीं रहे हैं।
Police say 2 terrorists have been killed during the operation and 2 pistols have been recovered. The locals say that one of them was working as a peon in the commercial complex.
इनकाउंटर में 2 टेररिस्ट मारे गए। एक का बिलाल भाई कहते हैं, कोर्ट को हैदर भी बोलता है, मोस्टली ये पाकिस्तानी टेररिस्ट है। दूसरा लोकल टेररिस्ट है, शायद ये रामपाट बनियाल साइड का है, उनके घर वाले को बुला रहे हैं।
All the political parties have denounced killings and demanded an impartial probe. While police say both the businessmen were terror supporters, the families demand justice. The least they want is return of dead bodies of Dr. Mudassir and Altaf Bhatt so that they can perform their last rites. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Meanwhile, the United States has advised its citizens to not travel to Jammu and Kashmir except for eastern Ladakh and Leh. The reasons being given are terrorism and civil unrest. Now, the Indian government already prohibits foreign tourists from visiting certain areas along the line of control. The US travel advisory says do not travel alone, particularly if you're a woman. Indian authorities report rape is one of the fastest growing crimes in India. Violent crimes such as sexual assault has occurred at tourist sites and in other locations, says that travel advisory. India will continue to take firm and decisive action against cross-border terror emanating from Pakistan. This is what New Delhi's representation at the UN has said. India said it would that the onus to create a conducive atmosphere for meaningful dialogue is on Pakistan, and talks can be held only in an atmosphere free of terror, hostility, and violence.
This is not the first time the representative of Pakistan has misused platforms provided by the UN to propagate false and malicious propaganda against my country, and seeking in vain to divert the world's attention from the sad state of his country, where terrorists enjoy free pass while the lives of ordinary people, especially those belonging to the minority communities, are turned upside down.
Tata Consultancy Services has asked its employees to return to offices in preparation for the company's 25-25 model, which is expected to be implemented by the year 2025. The company has said under the new model, by 2025, no more than 25% of employees will need to work from office at any given point and will not need to spend more than 25% of their time in office.
A fresh work model is in sight, at least for tech professionals. India's largest IT firm, TCS, has called its workers back to their deployed office locations in a flexible and phased manner, beginning December. Another, Tech Mahindra, is allowing employees to choose their work location only till December as of now. But after this return, TCS is already working towards a hybrid model, what it calls the 25-25 model. This means that by 2025, only 25% of its workforce will be in office. The rest, 3 out of 4, will be work from home. A spokesperson says hybrid models of work are here to stay. This Hyderabad couple agrees.
Work from home is a thing that's going to continue for a long while. It's economical for all. It's convenient for the employee. Flexibility is there. Travel time, we save on travel time. Related costs also. Health is good. We are with the family also. We work and saves a lot for the company, as I said earlier.
Hybrid model is definitely far more welcoming. It's a more welcoming thought than having to continue for work from home for, forever, for eternity. I mean, I don't think that's really good for the mental health. Also, hybrid, yes, definitely, that's the way to go.
As per the latest return to workplace survey by IT industry body NASSCOM, both employees and employers are equally interested in returning to work in a hybrid setup, and around 50% of the workforce is likely to return to office for up to 3 days a week starting next year. With Uma Sudhir, Sakshi Bajaj for NDTV.
US pharmaceutical giant Pfizer announced a game-changing deal on Tuesday to make its prospective antiviral COVID-19 pill available more cheaply in the world's least wealthy countries. Pfizer will sub-license production of its promising Paxlovid pill to generic drug manufacturers for supply in 95 low and middle-income nations that cover around 53% of the world's population. Under the deal struck with the Global Medicines Patent Pool, a United Nations-backed group, Pfizer will not receive royalties from these generic manufacturers. This, of course, is yet to be peer reviewed. However, we now know that Pfizer is submitting its experimental bill for COVID-19 authorization in the United States.
So, Dr. Kang, how does India enjoy a huge advantage in the manufacture of generic pills?
So if we look at the countries that get covered by the medicine patents pool to whom this has been licensed, essentially what happens is that the company gives its license to the medicines patent pool, and the medicines patent pool works with manufacturers in low and middle income countries to give them licenses to manufacture at low prices. That way you can have fixed drug combinations, you can have formulations that are made specifically for LMICs. It sounds fantastic. You mentioned 50% of the world's population, but we have to remember that this is licenses for 95 countries where most of the countries don't have the ability to make drugs, unlike India. So India is one of the few countries in that list of 95 that has a strong manufacturing industry that will be able to take advantage of the patents that are with the medicine patent pool.
Timely help to a fellow passenger earned Doctor-turned-Union Minister Dr. Bhagwat Karad applause from the Prime Minister. Dr. Karad, a Minister of State for Finance, was on board an Indigo flight from Delhi to Mumbai last night when a fellow flyer complained of giddiness. The minister stepped in and helped out. The Prime Minister tweeted, "A doctor at heart always, great gesture by my colleague." This after Indigo tweeted about the incident also.